What's on, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Ross, I like games, and today we got a couple of bits of news. We've got a new Yamato, which is even more interesting than it at first appears, and we've got a reliable card poll where you can go and vote, starting today, for the cards that you love the most. Yay! But let's start off, first of all, having a look at this Yamato. Now, look, it's a yellow card that's being revealed at the moment. This is very clearly and obviously a Yamato character card from the Yamato starter deck. And I don't think that is particularly it's not exactly a particularly difficult prediction to make. This is very obviously a Yamato from the Yamato starter deck. Okay, cool. Here's the thing though. We've got a second print of it. And to be fair, we've got a second print of it already, which is honestly kind of impressive, given that the card's just been revealed. Obviously, Yamato is the leader in the new starter deck, and we have actually got sleeves, which are the unencumbered artwork of this as well, which is kind of interesting. Although not terribly relevant for today's video, but we're talking Yamato, we're talking starter deck 9, I figured let's have a quick reminder. I can tell you guys this stuff is coming. Yay! But this Yamato then, what does it actually do? Well, I did a translation here myself, although I did check with the lovely Orange Samurai over on Facebook, who did check with the lovely folks over on the Discord. And essentially, what we've got here is, when attacking, you may add the top or bottom card of your life area to your hand. This character gains 2,000 power until the start of your next turn. Now, there's a few really interesting things about this card. Firstly, it's got counter plus 2,000, and we know that counter plus 2,000 is good, and we know that counter plus 2,000 is important, and we know that like every deck wants to have some element of counter plus 2,000, so this is it. That is lovely. The fact that it's a free cost, essentially 5,000 power, is quite nice. And of course, that's what you expect from a vanilla card. Like, vanilla cards generally have power to more than their cost. So a free cost vanilla card would generally be a 5,000 power card. And obviously, we've seen this with yellow. We've seen a yellow free cost 5,000 power vanilla card, just like we have for all the colors. It's Peckham's from the starter deck. From starter deck 7, the first starter deck. So yay, we've seen that. There is actually another free cost 5,000 power from OPO3, that is the Charlotte Perispero, and that's actually got an on-KO effect. Look at the top 3 cards of your deck, reveal a Big Mum Pirates card and add it to your hand. And a trigger lets you discard a card from your hand to play it. So it's really good as a free cost 5,000 power, but it doesn't have a counter, so it's not the same. Actually, I should say in OPO3, we've got Charlotte Praline as well, who is also a vanilla free cost 5,000 power counter plus 1,000, but we're talking Mermaid and Sun Pirates, as opposed to Peckmon's, which is Minx and Big Mum Pirates. And as we've seen with all of these searching skills in cards, it is actually pretty relevant what those types, traits, whatever you want to call them are. So yay! So the point is, this is essentially that, with counter plus 2,000, which is huge. However, you only actually bump up to 3,000 power if you take a life into your hand, which sometimes you're going to absolutely be willing to do, but you're not always going to be willing to do. And that is the massive downside here. As a side note, the fact that you can take from the top or bottom of your life is actually pretty big, because remember, one of the things that yellow does, it's got a bunch of ways to search, the top or, the top card of your life. It lets you, a lot of the time, know what the top card of your life is going to be. Therefore, if you know there's a card of a really good trigger on top of your life that you want to stick on top of your life, that you want to keep there, what you can then do is keep it there, and then you can go and get a card from the bottom of your life, leaving a good trigger on top. So that is why it is actually genuinely really relevant that it is top or bottom card of your life rather than just being the top. I like this card. I don't love this card. I like counter plus 2,000. I like that it can be a free cost 5,000. but I worry that the taking the life is a bit too much. Having said that, we've always got cards like Charlotte Katakuri, who has Rush, but only where you've got fewer life remaining than your opponent. So actually here, there is an argument for wanting to take the life with Yamato so that you can then go and activate Rush on Charlotte Katakuri. That is a thing which we can do. So there are definitely other uses for this. And I know this is a bit of a cop-out answer, and I can only apologise in advance for saying it, but it really does depend on what deck you're playing and where you are in the game. But there are certainly going to be some decks that can take advantage of this. 2,000 counter plus a way to take life. Yeah, some decks are going to want that. But I did tell you there was a second version of it, and there is. It is an alternate art, and it is the exact same card I've just shown you. And apparently, and shout out to lovely Orange Samurai D for making me aware of this, essentially what you need to do is participate in a television game in Japan next month, and then you'll be entered into a lottery where you can win this card. What that basically means is this is going to be a pain. Now, I don't know how this card is being released in English, but if we look at Digimon, which is, also run by Bandai, and we look at what they've done with One Piece so far, they have been really, really good at giving us these alternate art cards. And I mentioned before, but it's worth mentioning again, I still do think that the Shonen Jump Luffy. The Shonen Jump Luffy. The Psycho Jump Luffy is a yellow one, that I have no issue with. The Shonen Jump Luffy, I do think we might not get it, or we might get it as an alternate art. It is actually a new mechanically unique card, so we have to kind of get it in some way at some point. But I could absolutely see that making its way over. Japan gets another artwork of it, and then we get that artwork, but we never get the Shonen Jump artwork, because it's like, hey, here's a classic cover of a Japanese magazine, and I think it's fair to say that we don't really know that magazine. But I think that's like the only way. Like cards like that I could see us not getting, but that's it. I think any other alternate art cards, see what they've done with Digimon over in Japan, see what they've already done with One Piece over here, I do think it's incredibly likely that we're going to be getting all of these. How are we going to be getting this alternate art Yamato? I have no idea, but I do think that it's a decent shout that we will, and that's kind of awesome. But then we've got this poll as well, a reliable card poll. Now this is an English thing, this is not a Japanese thing. Vote for the card that is your MVP. Voting period starts today, ends 2 weeks time on March the 14th. Choose from booster exclusive cards only, i.e. they're not asking for starter decks or promos. We're now accepting votes for which card has been most reliable to you. Vote for the card that is your MVP. Cards in the top ranks may even be used for special promotion cards. The eligible cards for voting are those found in Romance Dawn, so please choose which cards helped you the most from among these cards. We will announce the cards which receive lots of votes after the voting period ends. And it even specifically says, excluding promotion cards, starter decks, and alternate art cards. So, here's the thing. The wording here is very, 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 very specific, because they're not promising to reprint these cards. What they're doing is saying, hey, vote for these cards and we might reprint them. Now, I taught business, before I started doing the whole YouTube thing full time, I taught business for like 13 years. I kind of know business. And I've seen stuff like this before. Essentially, this is an information gathering exercise. This is a very new game, which means that they want to know the kind of cards you like. And look, we know they've got the results of Treasure Cups. We know we've got the results of Treasure Cups. But the results of Treasure Cups will only take you so far because there just aren't that many of them, frankly. So what they're doing is using this as an extra way to get information about which cards they might want to use for reprints, or even which cards they might want to do new versions of. Like if everybody, let's say Roanoa Zorro, the Rush Zorro. Everybody knows this is one of the best cards in Romance Dawn. This is a phenomenal card. Although, as I showed you the other day, time we get to OPO3, red cards become Edward Newgate, and red is still ruling the format. And as I showed you in a video the other day, I mean ruling the format. At the big tournament in Japan recently, Edward Newgate got first and second. But it's not playing Rush Zorro. So Rush Zorro might not, and I've been telling you this all the way along, these cards are not always going to remain amazing forever. They will get usurped by various things. But the fact of the matter is, Rush Zorro, one of the best cards around at the moment. Now, when you're voting, you're not voting for the amazing alternate art Akira Igawa artwork. You're just voting for the regular Roanoa Zorro. But this will be a good one, because that might get a reprint in the future. And if you vote for that, what that basically says to Bandai is, hey, can you reprint this? This has become a very expensive card. Like, if we go over onto TCG Player at the moment and go and have a little bit of a gander, if we take out the alternate art cards from Romance Dawn, partly because they're, unfairly expensive, and partly because we've been told they're excluded from the poll, the number one most expensive card is Rush Zorro. If anyone's wondering, number 2 is actually Secret Rare Yamato. It is a playable Secret Rare that makes its way into a bunch of decks, and obviously Secret Rares have lower pull rates than Super Rares, and yet Roanoa Zorro, and it's pretty close, let's be clear, there's only a couple bucks in it, but Roanoa Zorro is actually the most expensive regular card in Romance Dawn. So I would expect that to be there. Other cards which we know are pretty, used very heavily and jumping up in value, it's things like the Trafalgar Law. Now, that's the one that's got blocker, but it's also on play, you may return a card to your hand and play a 3 cost or less. So you play like a 1 cost searching card and then replace it for free with a good 3 cost card. That is a very cool card. The Eustace Captain Kidd, that Don X1 on your opponent's turn, if this character is rested, they cannot attack any card other than the character, Captain Eustace Kidd. And, I casted the Treasure Cup over in Birmingham. We saw that when green decks get that card out, they can grind the game down to a halt. Kaido, I expect to go pretty high up in here, because obviously you've got that absolutely phenomenal skill that KOs every character but Kaido. And also, characters like Kid, like Kaido, like Law, like Zorro, it's not a coincidence that those characters are having a bunch of cards pretty gosh darn quickly, because actually they are very, very popular characters. So these are the kind of ones I would expect to do well. And then there is not a guarantee or any of that rubbish, but there is a very good chance that these cards get alternate art reprints in the future. We know from Digimon, and again, the way One Piece is rolling here is exactly the same as what Bandai have done with Digimon. We know that they are going to reprint sought after cards. Really good cards that are extremely sought after, that see a lot of play, that are harder to get, they will do reprints of. And I'm not saying that this is a poll just to decide what to reprint. I am not saying that at all. What I am saying is, you know what? This has got to be one of the things they're thinking. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen. We've got a new Yamato, and there's already 2 different versions somehow. And we got this reliable card poll, which sounds very interesting to me. But I want to hear from you guys. So let me know what you think about all of this in the comment section, would you? Go nuts! Be nice! And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWasi. That's where we talk One Piece and card games, all kinds of fun things. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCGradio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts, join a Discord, all kinds of fun things. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching Wasi Plays.